WandaVision. WandaVision created by Jac Shaeffer and directed by Shakman and stars Elizabeth Olsen, Bettany, Teyonah Parris, Dennings, Randall Park and Kathryn Hahn. And basically the series follows Wanda and Vision, who seem to be living in an alternative reality. And in this alternative reality, they seem to be living through sitcoms over the past few decades. However, as the series unfolds, you find out that there's more to this reality than you initially thought. And that's basically the plot of WandaVision. Honestly, I think this show is fine. I don't think it's terrible. I do actually think the series has a lot of things going for it. But at the same time though, I do think the series has a lot of big problems. But in order to talk about the big problems, in order to talk about the things I actually kind of like about the show, it does mean that I will be getting some spoilers. So, if you haven't watched WandaVision yet, and you're thinking about watching it, but you don't know anything about WandaVision, I do apologise. I will be getting into some big spoilers in this review. So here is your warning. Spoiler alert. But anyway, like I said, I think WandaVision is fine. But I think it's got 5 big problems. And a lot of other mini problems as well. But here are my 5 big personal problems with this show. First of all, why did they cast 7 Peters? Second of all, I don't think they're committed enough to the whole sitcom idea. Third of all, I think it's very similar to the BBC TV show Life on Mars, which I think is superior over this. And my fourth reason is that I think they have an idea, but it's stretched over 9 episodes. I don't think the show needs to be 9 episodes long. And my fifth reason, my 5th big problem in the show, is that it feels quite filler, and it feels like one big setup for future Marvel shows or future Marvel films. But anyway, let's talk about my first big problem. Why the hell did they cast Evan Peters? Now, if you don't know what I mean here, basically, at the end of episode 5, I think it was episode 5, Evan Peters shows WandaVision. And it's implied that he is the Quicksilver from the X-Men films, because Evan Peters played the Quicksilver in, I think it was X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, and X-Men Dark Phoenix. Even so, I'm not the biggest fan of the MCU films. I did actually make a video not too long ago on this channel, which I said my 5 big reasons for not liking the MCU films. By the way, I've come up with loads of reasons since then, over reasons why I don't really like the MCU films. But, sign here, yes, even so I'm not really the biggest fan of the MCU films, I actually really like the X-Men films. I really like some of the ideas in them. Like, I really like the whole thing, you know, mutant and proud in the X-Men films, which I'm going to talk about. I'm going to do my views on some of the X-Men films quite soon on this channel, but I'm actually quite a big fan of the X-Men movies, and I really like X-Men Days of Future Past. I think that's a brilliant movie, and that was actually the first movie that Evan Peters' Quicksilver showed up in. And even so I'm not the biggest fan of Apocalypse, I must admit, I don't really like X-Men Apocalypse that much. I really like the X-Men Quicksilver scene in that one, you know, the whole Sweet Dream sequence. I think that's brilliant, and I don't really like X-Men Dark Phoenix that much either, but even so, you know, Evan Peters' Quicksilver isn't in that film that much. I do actually like the scenes that he's in that film. But then he shows up in WandaVision, and you do kind of think, oh, he's the X-Men Quicksilver. But then it turns out he's not, because in the show, it's all this thing that he's like the fake Pietro Maximoff. He's a fake MCU Quicksilver that we've previously known from Avengers Age of Ultron, who was Wanda's brother in Age of Ultron. When he shows up in this show, he's like, he says something online, oh, Wanda, you want to give your bro a big hug or something? And I was like, oh, yes, this is it. This is how they're going to bring in the X-Men. They're going to do some, like, multiverse thing, because maybe they won't actually use the same actors from the X-Men films, you know, from the, like, the previous X-Men films that we've been following, or, you know, X-Men Dark Phoenix. Maybe they won't use the same actors, but maybe they'll do something multiverse, because we already know they're doing multiverse in the MCU at the moment. I mean, take out, you know, Spider-Man No Way Home, which is going to have, you know, Doc Ock, you know, Alpha Leader Dr. Octopus from, you know, the early Spider-Man films, you know, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films that came out in the early 2000s. We already know he's going to be in the next Spider-Man film. We already know that Jamie Foxx's Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is also going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home. So I was thinking, oh, they're going to do like a multiverse thing. They're going to say, like, the X-Men are from a different universe. But then, in the end, they didn't. In the end, Evan Peters turned out to be Ralph Boner. Why? First of all, Ralph is one of those characters that just kind of mentioned in the show, and honestly, I thought Ralph was going to be like a little sitcom gimmicky thing, like when you have, you know, Niles' wife, Maris and Fraser, who you never really meet, or something like The Big Bang Theory, you have, you know, Howard's mother in The Big Bang Theory, which you never really meet either. Something like that, which is a character in a sitcom, which you don't really meet, but instead, Evan Peters turned out to be Ralph Boner. I think that was a missed opportunity, and I think it's too confusing. Like, in the end, you know, Marvel, it's a Marvel TV show. These TV shows and these films are all aimed at a family audience, but imagine trying to explain this to a kid. Oh, so he is the same actor who played the Quicksilver in the X-Men films, they cast him in this show, and he's meant to be playing the fake MCU Quicksilver. So is he actually the real Quicksilver from the X-Men films, or is he not? Apparently he's not. He's Ralph Boner, but why did they cast the same actor? Why did they do that? It's kind of silly, and it's almost like, if it was something like the writers, you know, like, something, okay, we're gonna do something really funny here. We're gonna cast, you know, Evan Peters. I don't think he could be the X-Men Quicksilver, you know, from the Fox universe, you know, the Fox X-Men films. But actually, you know, instead it's gonna be this random character. But actually, it's just a bit of a joke that we're making up. It's not that funny. Instead, it's actually kind of annoying. In fact, I think it's kind of condescending, because we're we're all here for weeks on end because, you know, WandaVision comes out weekly thinking, but that must be the X-Men Quicksilver. Why the hell would you cast Evan Peters if it's not? You know, Evan Peters got a cult following at that as well. And why would you cast him if he's not the X-Men Quicksilver? And I've got nothing against Evan Peters. I think he's a great actor. He was my favourite part about X-Men Apocalypse, a film which I didn't really like, although I really liked the Sweet Dream sequence in that film, which he pops up in. I really like X-Men Apocalypse. He's one of my favourite parts of that film, a film which I don't really like. I really liked him in X-Men Days of Future Past, and I really liked him in X-Men Dark Phoenix. But in this TV show, why did you cast him if he's not the same Quicksilver? It doesn't make any sense. It just confuses people. I know Kevin Feige, you know, the head of Marvel Studios, has even come out about a week ago. They said, you know, we casted Evan Peters to mess with Wanda. Well, why did you cast Evan Peters then? You could have casted Aaron Taylor Johnson because he played, you know, PH1 Maximum. He played the MCU Quicksilver in Avengers Age of Ultron. Why didn't you cast him instead? Because that would have messed with Wanda more. They'd be like, oh my god, my brother's back. And then actually he isn't back. That would have been more interesting. And don't say to me it's because, oh yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson didn't want to return to the MCU. Aaron Taylor Johnson hasn't had that much work in the past few years. I mean, he was in the Outlaw King, which was a Netflix film with Chris Pine a couple of years back. And at the same time, he wasn't Christopher Nolan's Tenet as well, but he didn't have a huge role in Tenet. And, you know, Outlaw King wasn't really that big of a film. So, don't say to me that Aaron Taylor Johnson didn't want to return. You know, they offered him a thing and they said, oh, he didn't want to return. Don't make up that way, because that's completely false. I can guarantee you now, if someone said to Aaron Taylor Johnson, do you want to come back to the MCU and play the same character he did in Avengers Age of Ultron, a movie that made over $1 billion at the box office, I guarantee he would have gone, oh yeah, definitely would have. But instead they cast Evan Peters and it's like, why? It's almost like making fun of us because we want X-Men. And, you know, ever since, you know, it's been announced that Marvel bought Fox. Everyone's like, oh, when's X-Men going to come in? They're going to bring Patrick Stewart in, they're going to bring Hugh Jackman, they're going to bring, you know, Ian McKellen, and so on and so on and so on. And then they bought Evan Peters and they think, oh, they're going to do multiverse now. Because we know this is a whole multiverse story. Because Kevin Feige, you know, like I said, the head of Marvel Studios, is even said himself that this, you know, WandaVision leads into Spider-Man 3, leads into Spider-Man No Way Home, and then that leads into Doctor Strange 2, into the Multiverse of Madness. So we all know that this is all part of the same story, so we know multiverse is happening. But they didn't do anything multiverse in this show, because in the end it just turns out to be Ralph Boner. Like, I thought they were going to do this whole multiverse thing. Oh, they bring him in, but then he's not, but then he is, but then he's not, but then he is. Well, I don't understand. Why didn't they just do the multiverse? Why didn't they say, okay, the X-Men characters are in a different universe? One that we, you know, we can go into every now and then. One that we can use a few more characters. Well, that would open, like, I don't know, Michael Fassbender to reappear as Magneto, or James McAvoy to reappear as, you know, a young Charles Xavier. It would open those characters to return, but instead, it's no, we know multiverse is happening. This would have been a really interesting idea to do something multiverse-wise. We know multiverse is happening, you know, Spider-Man No Way Home, Spider-Man 3, you know, coming out this Christmas. And that's part of the same story with WandaVision. We know multiverse is happening because Dr. Octopus from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films is coming back in Spider-Man No Way Home. We know Jamie Foxx's Electro is coming back as Amazing Spider-Man 2 in Spider-Man No Way Home. And those two films, those two characters from completely different film universes, yet we know they're going to be in Spider-Man No Way Home, playing some sort of the same character. Maybe not the exact same character, but a version of that character. And I would be fine if they did that in WandaVision. And the fact is, you know, Doctor Strange 2, The Multiverse of Madness, which Wanda is going to be in, which is also part of the same story, you know, it's called Multiverse of Madness, and yet they don't do anything with multiverse in this. It's just like, why? Why tease us with multiverse? Why say you might be the X-Men Quicksilver and then to only confirm it's Ralph Boner in this really bad reveal? Literally, you know, Monica Rambeau played by Teyonah Parris, looking at a picture of Ralph Boner, and then she looks down and goes, Ralph Boner, it's a picture of Evan Peters. It's like, that's the reveal, and then Evan Peters is not in the rest of the last episode. That's how they do it. And it's just like, why cast Evan Peters? Why make us think that it's the X-Men Quicksilver? Maybe Evan Peters would pop up again in Doctor Strange 2, but to be honest, I don't have any high hopes that he will. And it annoyed me that. I wish he was the X-Men Quicksilver. I wish he did some sort of multiverse thing. That would be kind of interesting, maybe a bit fun. Like, imagine if Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier was final cameo. Instead, Paul Bettany, you know, trolled a bit there. I'm not too fussed about the final cameo thing. In the end, we got a fantastic cameo in the end of Mandalorian, which I think is a much better series, you know, Mandalorian Season 2. I would defend Mandalorian to the day I die. I think it's a much better series than, you know, WandaVision. And in the end, we did get a fantastic cameo there, and in the end, it was a bit disappointing there. But, you know, they could have done something really interesting in the multiverse, which leaded into Spider-Man No Way Home. Maybe we could have actually got a scene with the X-Men Quicksilver and, you know, the MCU Quicksilver. Instead, they just blew it out of the park and said he was Ralph Boner. I mean, come on. I know Marvel like their comedy, but seriously, Ralph Boner? Grow up a bit. That's a bit silly comedy. It's something like kids will laugh at. I didn't find it funny. And honestly, I think it was a massive missed opportunity. Let's go on to my second big problem with this show. They don't stick to the sitcom format enough. Like, the first few episodes are just solid sitcom format with a few hints of what's really going on outside of, you know, the hexes, the reality that Wanda has created. But then, the thing is, with the whole thing, with the sitcom format, they don't stick to it in the third episode. Because in the third episode, you know, Teyonah Parris' character, Monica Rambeau, is thrown out the hex after she mentions something to Wanda, like, you know, your brother was killed by Ultron, and then she's thrown out of the hex. I'm just like, okay, we cut back the curtain, that was quite quickly. And then the 4th episode was like, the curtain's back. It's so far back. This is what's happening. It almost felt like the writers were scared of, you know, the viewers like getting bored with the whole sitcom format. And I don't think they were that, you know, confident with doing that. I think they got a bit scared. Like, okay, we've had 2 episodes of sitcom format now. Let's reveal the curtain a bit. And I don't think that worked that much. Like, take a look at Life of Mars, which leads me to my next problem with the show. This show takes a lot of Life of Mars, in my opinion. BBC TV show Life of Mars, which I think is superior to this, a fantastic TV show. And if you don't know what Life of Mars is about, basically it follows Sam Tyler in 2006 as he gets knocked over by a car and he wakes up in 1973 and you don't know if he's in a coma, dead, alive, or is he somebody travelled back in time. That's a far better TV show than this because it sticks that idea. Quite a lot of Life of Mars takes place in the 1970s and it sticks that whole idea, oh, maybe he's in the 1970s. But in this show, it doesn't stick to the sitcom format enough. Literally, it keeps cutting back the curtain from episode 5 onwards to the point that it almost feels like they know the viewers are going to get bored of the sitcom format. So they keep going, okay, actually, no, that's the Marvel you want. We're going to give you something kind of different. Actually, it's not that different because Life of Mars has already done a very similar idea already. And by the way, side note here, it isn't that original, the idea, the whole sitcom format. Yeah, it's one of those ideas that you'd come up with like on a walk. Like imagine if, you know, WandaVision were trapped in reality where they have living through sitcoms of the decades. Oh, that's a good idea. Hey, you want to go on a walk? Oh, yeah. That's what it's like. It's not really that good of an idea. Life of Mars already did a very similar idea and better in my opinion. Even Ashes Watch was like the sequel series to Life of Mars. I've seen both of them and they're far superior series to this one because they stick to the whole thing with, okay, Sam Tyler's in 1973. Is he alive? Is he dead? Is he in a coma? Or is he just simply travel back in time? How does that work? And in the end of every episode of Life of Mars, you get some sort of payoff of what's going on. And then, at the very end of Life of Mars, like, oh wow, I didn't see that coming. And it was built up so well. In WandaVision, all the stuff with the sitcom format was not built up well. 2 episodes, and then in the 3rd episode you get told kind of what's going on. In the 4th episode you literally get told, okay, this is what's going on. It doesn't stick to the sitcom format idea that much. And also, by the way, it copies a lot of Life of Mars. Like the whole thing in episode 2 with Agent Jimmy Woo, you know, Randall Park's character, who we've met in Ant-Man and the Wasp. He's, you know, talking to Wanda on the radio to get into the hex. You know, it's like, Wanda, who's doing this to you? And that idea, like the whole thing with, you know, Agent Jimmy Woo, you know, commuting via the radio, it's literally right out of Life of Mars. There are certain moments of Life of Mars where, you know, characters communicate on the radio like, Sam, are you okay? And things like that. And it's like, I literally was watching that scene in episode 2 and I was like, when Agent Jimmy Woo is communicating on the radio, I was like, that's literally out of Life of Mars. Or even Ashes to Ashes. It happens in Ashes to Ashes as well. And in my opinion, Life of Mars and Ashes to Ashes are far superior shows. And they did the idea before this. This show takes a lot of those shows in my opinion. And not necessarily in a good way. I think Life of Mars sticks to the whole idea of a 1970s thing, going back to the 1970s in a better way. In WandaVision, it almost feels like they're not confident enough with the whole sitcom format, that they have to keep revealing the curtain in order to keep, you know, the Marvel viewers interested. We're far more interested in, you know, the big action-filled, you know, Marvel films, like the Avengers films, which I'm not the biggest fan of. It almost feels like they're just trying to keep the audience interested because, you know, that's what they want from a Marvel TV show, instead of actually doing something kind of different. And that leads me on to my 4th big problem to this show. It's the fact that it feels like an idea extended over 9 episodes. In my opinion, this show could have been about 6 or 7 episodes, 8 at the most, and I think it would be far better because it feels like they try to extend this idea over, you know, 9 episodes. Like Falcon Winter Soldier, we're coming out in like 2 weeks now. That's kind of crazy, by the way. We're gonna get another Marvel TV show in 2 weeks, but Falcon Winter Soldier, which I'm not really excited for at all, that's only gonna be 6 episodes long. And the thing is, though, whether I like Falcon or Winter Soldier or not, I bet that will feel like it needed to be, you know, 6 episodes. I bet that'll feel like it needs to be 6 episodes. I didn't feel WandaVision ever felt like that. I felt there was a lot of filler moments in there. And there moments we just didn't need. Like in episode 7, we have Darcy and Vision in the ice cream van. And then Darcy says to Vision, the love between you and Wanda is real and everything. I was like, in the long run, you don't need that. Because then you get to episode 8, you have the whole flashback stuff, and you see, you know, Wanda and Vision in between Age of Ultron and Civil War, you know, having a little moment. You guys, oh my god, their love is actually real. And you get the whole Vision moment, which is a really good line of dialogue, by the way. The whole moment is like, what is grief if not love preserving? The way Paul Bettany to Lover's Eye. That's a really good moment. Because of that moment, we didn't need that moment in episode 7. The whole ice cream van stuff between Darcy and Vision in episode 7, because that was just filler in the end. And there's so many other stages of just filler in the show, which I'm going to get into when I discuss the episodes individually. And that's my problem. There's a lot of filler in there. And it doesn't feel, it feels like the show could be more to the point and be about 6 or 7 episodes and be the exact same show. And I think that is a problem. I think if it was shorter, it would have been better. I think it's an idea exaggerated over 9 episodes. Like I said, it's one of those ideas we just come up with, like a Sunday or something. Like, oh, imagine if, you know, Wanda and Vision were trapped in reality and they had to go through the sitcom. So that's a good idea. When I want to walk, yeah. It just seems like an idea that doesn't really not interesting. They extended over 9 episodes. Not interesting in my opinion. At the same time though, that leads me to my 5th and final big problem. By the way, I have lots of other mini problems in this series as well, but my 5th big problem in the series is that it's a lot of filler and a lot of setup for future Marvel shows and future Marvel films. I don't know what happened with certain characters at the end. And watching the final 2 post-credit scenes, I'm like, that's setting up Captain Marvel 2. Why? That's setting up Doctor Strange 2. Not really that well though. It's just, there's a lot of setup and a lot of filler. It feels like they tried to get this out and it's going to set up, and it feels like they want all the people to watch to go, okay, now I can't wait to go and watch, Spider-Man No Way Home, or, Doctor Strange 2, or Captain Marvel 2. But in the end, Marvel shows should exist by themselves. I know a lot of people say they do, but in my opinion, they don't. I don't think Marvel films do exist by themselves. I think WandaVision is a prime example of a Marvel TV show, of a Marvel project that doesn't exist by itself. I think they had a massive misstep in the end of trying to set so much stuff up, because in the end, it should exist by itself. It should be its own TV show. It's not a bad idea for a TV show. I'm not saying that, although I do think the idea is exaggerated over 9 episodes. I don't think it's a bad idea for a TV show, but it should exist by itself, and it doesn't. I think that's a big problem with it. But anyway, I'm going to quickly go into the episodes individually. I'm not going to go into like a full deep dive like I did with the Mandalorian Season 2 episodes. I'm just going to go through them quickly individually. First of all, the first 2 episodes, I just followed filler. I honestly didn't really like the first 2 episodes, and it just kind of felt that it went off to a really bad start in the series. I'm not going to lie. Like, I never found the first 2 episodes funny, and as much as I do think Paul Bettany and Olsen are really good actors, I really like them in the series. They give up great performances. I just don't think they could deliver comedy, and I just didn't find them that funny in the first 2 episodes. I just didn't like them that much, and I don't think there was enough small payoffs as to what was really going on. Episode 3 is just like, oh right, we think you might get a bit, bored of what was going on in the sitcom format. Actually, let's just reveal about the curtain. I didn't really like episode 3 that much. I thought they revealed what was going on behind the scenes, behind this alternative reality way too quickly. I thought episode 4 was just naff, to be honest. There wasn't really any interesting moments in there. But the moments in episode 4, I was like, really? That's the explanation for things happened? Like, they had the whole beekeeper thing in episode 4, because the whole beekeeper sort of the end of episode 2, and then episode 4, it just turned out to be a guy who walked through the reality and came out the other side, and it just turned out to be this random guy in a beekeeper costume. It didn't really make any sense in my opinion. I just thought that was a really lackluster way to explain the whole beekeeper thing. I thought that was really disappointing. And then you get to episode 5. I think episode 5 is actually a good episode. That's actually one of my favourite episodes of the season, because, Evan Peters comes in at the end of the episode. I mean, obviously he's not playing the X-Men Quicksilver. Why cast him? Why? But it was actually Evan Peters, and I was like, oh wow, that's really interesting they did that. And I really like that episode. I also like the whole stuff with, Wiccan and Speed in that episode, Wanda's kids. That was really interesting in that episode. I did like episode 5. I thought it was quite good. Although, fortunately though, I didn't like episode 6. That was a Halloween episode. I thought that Halloween episode was just a bit naff, to be honest. I thought it was all over the place. I thought it was a bit messy. Again, had some interesting moments in there. For example, seeing all, Hey Ya's base and the bad guys' base being all turning into these big circus tents. And that was all really interesting. But unfortunately, the episode just didn't do it for me. I didn't like it much. I'd like the use of Evan Peters in that episode. That was the episode that Evan Peters was in the most. But I thought it was a bit of a naff episode, I must admit. Episode 7, again, I thought it was mostly filler. The whole stuff with Darcy Vision in that episode was mostly filler, man. Saying that, though, I really liked the end of episode 7, Agatha All Along song, It was Agatha all along, bum 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 bum. That was really good. I really liked that reveal, like, okay, it's Agatha Hahn. Kathryn Hahn's character is a big bad villain in all of this. I really liked the way they revealed that. It's a really good reveal, in my opinion. Although it was at the end of the episode, and most of the episode I just felt was filler, I thought it was alright. A really good ending, but just alright. And side note here, the whole song, Agatha All Along, that's a little trivia here. That song was actually sung by Kathryn Hahn, the Agatha Harkness actress herself. She actually sung that song, and I thought that was really awesome. Kathryn Hahn's great in the series. And then we get to episode 8, and that's the whole flashback. I thought the flashback episode was fine, and I understand why a lot of people would actually love this episode, because if you're a fan of the MCU, if you've had this emotional connection to characters like Vision and Wanda, then I understand why you like this episode so much. Unfortunately, I don't. I don't have that personal connection with any of these Marvel movies, with the exception of, Guardians of the Galaxy, Iron Man, Spider-Man films, Sandman. I don't really have a personal connection to any of these Marvel films. And so when I'm watching this episode, I was like, I want to feel more emotional. I don't feel as emotional as I think the episode wants me to feel. But there are some really interesting moments in that episode. Like I said, that whole line where Vision says, what is grief if love preserve it? Ah, what a line of dialogue. But then it felt like another filler episode. It felt like that episode, they were trying to extend this idea. Like the whole thing where you see Agatha Harkness getting her powers at the start of the episode. That whole scene where you see Agatha Harkness getting her powers went on for 5 minutes. Also, you watch that scene thinking, this scene didn't be that long. I get what they're trying to do. They're showing that Kathryn Hahn has her powers. Okay, the scene's still going on. The scene's still going on. The scene's still going on. I was like, I don't understand why the scene's still going on. Again, I can understand why a lot of people loved the episode. You know, if you had that emotional connection with the Marvel movies that I just haven't had, maybe you love that episode loads. And if you did, that's great. Personally, I just didn't. Episode 8 didn't do it for me. I just felt like the whole episode could have been done in 2 scenes in another episode. Honestly, it really felt like the whole flashback stuff could have been done in two scenes in another episode. And I think it would be more to the point. And I didn't think episode 8 was that needed. That was my personal opinion on episode 8. Episode 9 was all over the place. The final episode of the series is just all over the place. Quite literally from the moment you get in. I was very worried to watch this episode, I must admit. I was very excited, but I was very worried. They had a lot of questions to answer. And they answered all the questions. Well, most of them, but in some really naff ways. I thought episode 9 was all over the place. First of all, what the hell happened with White Vision? I don't really understand what was going on there at all. Like, is White Vision now Vision? And then you get the whole reveal like Evan Peters is what, Ralph Boner? Come on, Marvel. I expected Evan Peters to actually quite a big run last episode. In it for about 3 minutes. Not even that, probably. And at the same time, though, I thought it was quite anticlimactic. It just had a very generic Marvel ending. Wanda got the costume. She's a Scarlet Witch. I thought she was a Scarlet Witch already. Apparently she wasn't. And I was like, oh, she's now got the costume? Okay, that's just a better version of a Halloween costume from episode 6. And I was a bit like, it doesn't really interest me that much. And the whole stuff with Agatha and Wanda in that episode was just like, boom, I'm a witch, no, I'm a witch, I'm a witch, no, I'm a witch, I'm a witch. I'm like, I don't care who's a witch. Move the plot forward. I don't need all this woo, shoo, woo, woo. I was like, that's what it felt like for most of that episode. And the whole stuff with Vision and White Vision was like boom, 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 boing. Like most Marvel generic action, which I just don't really care about. It doesn't really do it for me. And I don't really know what happened with White Vision. And then even the emotional part of that last episode, where that final goodbye between Wanda and Vision, and when Wanda has to say goodbye to her children, that should have been overly emotional. I should have been on the verge of tears like it was at the end of Mandalorian Season 2, when Mandalorian says goodbye to Baby Yoda, but it just wasn't emotional. I was watching it thinking, I don't care. I don't care because everything in this episode has already annoyed me. That I just don't care what's going on here. It just felt messy, paced all over the place, and honestly, quite a finale to a series which should have had a really good finale. In my opinion, the finale, the last episode should have been about an hour and a half, and they should have had quite a steady speed with it and answered a lot more questions, a lot better. Instead, you just get answers thrown in left, right, and centre, which I just like, seriously, that, okay, that, and then it was all over the place, and there's a lot of like ways it's going, and then you'll have like a Vision go boom, boom, then Vision having a conversation with White Vision, or Bettany going out himself. I was like, I don't care about this. And honestly, episode 9, I hate to say it, I thought it was rubbish. And it isn't because I had any hype or any theories for that last episode. Like a lot of people have been saying, all the people who don't like the last episode, it's just because they have theories. The theories didn't come true. I didn't have any theories. I thought, oh, Patrick Stewart might show up. But then once, Ralph Boner got confirmed, I was like, okay, Patrick Stewart's not showing up. And then it was a bit like, oh, God, okay, that's what, I don't care. Move the plot forward, and then I just thought the answers were done too weirdly and too quickly. And then the 2 post-credit scenes. What the hell? They didn't answer anything. And I'm not excited for Captain Marvel 2 or Doctor Strange 2. Like, I get what they're trying to do. Obviously, Captain Marvel 2 was set up in that first post-credit scene, Monica Rambeau, and she sees a scroll. I hate scrolls, by the way. I haven't really told about this, but I hate scrolls. I didn't mind them in Captain Marvel because I get the part of the Captain Marvel world, and I get the part of the Captain Marvel lore and everything. But then when you had them at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, when that whole scroll post-credit scene came at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, I remember just being in the cinema thinking, seriously? Oh, for God's sake. And that was how I felt in this. Like, we're doing scrolls again. Didn't we just have scrolls in the last MCU project? What was this? I don't know. Oh, God. And then the last thing, what's it? Wanda's in the middle of nowhere in this cabin, and she's with the Scarlet Witch. I don't understand. And honestly, I just didn't get what was going on with the whole final post-credit scene of the whole show. Like, what was it all about? And honestly, those are my opinions on all 9 episodes of WandaVision. And I kind of feel disappointed about the show. And that's not to say I don't think it has a few things going for it. I do think the show actually has a few perks. For example, I think the show is actually well made. Matt Shakman, the director of all the episodes of the show, actually did a really good job making the series. At the same time, though, I like performances. Kathryn Hahn's great. I also like, Teyonah Parris, Monica Rambeau, and she becomes Photon and stuff. I really like the whole Photon stuff. That worked well in my opinion. At the same time, though, I also think Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are absolutely fantastic on the show. I really do. They give off really, really good performances. Quite a lot of the emotional scenes of the show wouldn't have worked without them. Wouldn't have worked without their fantastic performance. And I think they are both absolutely fantastic in the show. I really do. And at the same time, though, I like that they kind of use, you know, characters who are side characters in like other Marvel films and stuff, and they made them like main characters. Like, you know, Wanda and Vision themselves have been side characters in the Avengers films, and now they're in this show as main characters. And at the same time, you know, Agent Jimmy Woo from Ant-Man and the Wasp, not really a fan of that film, but you know, he's actually quite a key character in this show. At the same time, you know, Darcy, Kat Dennings' character from the first two Thor films, she's actually quite a main character in the show as well. I like that they did that. And at the same time, though, I also really like the music of the show. I really like, you know, Christoph Beck's score for the show. I really like the, you know, this Wanda theme that he composed in the series, which works really well, which always pops up in the credits, which I liked quite a lot. And at the same time, though, I also really like the songs in the show. You know, Agatha All Along, that works really well. And you know, the song at the beginning of the show, you know, when you see WandaVision get mad, you know, the WandaVision, that works really, really well. But all in all, it just doesn't work for me. I mean, I have so many other problems in the show that I just really haven't talked about. But honestly, it all comes down to my 5 big problems. Why did they cast 7 Peters? Why did they tease us with, you know, X-Men? We know multiverse is happening. The whole X-Men movies could have been part of a different universe, could be part of a multiverse. You know, we know multiverse is happening. WandaVision, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Doctor Strange 2 into the multiverse of madness are all part of the same story. And yet, there's no sort of multiverse stuff in this show. And it's just, the whole 11 Peters stuff amounted to Ralph Boner. I mean, come on. That leads me to my second big problem of the show, which it doesn't stick to the sitcom format enough, and that leads me to my third big problem of the show, which is too similar to Life of Mars. And I think Life of Mars is a much superior show. Honestly, I really do. And by the way, Life of Mars is actually on Netflix right now, and I highly recommend it. Very good show in my opinion. And also, Ashes to Ashes, the sequel show to Life of Mars, is also on Netflix. Go and check it out. Very good shows in my opinion. Honestly, better than this in my opinion as well. And at the same time, though, the fourth big problem, that it's an idea that's extended over 9 episodes. This show could have been, you know, 6, 7, 8 episodes at the most, and would have been the exact same show in my opinion. And my final big problem to this show is that it's filler and it's set up. In the end, the show is just set up for Doctor Strange 2 into Multiverse of Madness, because we know Wanda's going to be in that film. I wanted to like it more than I did. And I just felt it was mostly filler and setup. And that's one of my big problems with Marvel overall. I mean, I just said that in my big problem with Marvel video, you know, video that was about 42 minutes long. But, you know, I did actually say in that video that one of my big problems is quite a lot of Marvel is just, you know, filler and setup, and just the movies don't exist by their own. And WandaVision is proof of that. WandaVision doesn't exist by its own. In the end, it makes you want to go watch Doctor Strange 2. Maybe that film actually have more answers. I don't know. Maybe M. Peters will show up in that film. I'm not getting that excited. I don't think he will. But, you know, you never know. I just don't think it works. I think it doesn't exist by its own. I think it's a lot of stuff, a lot of filler. And, honestly, it's disappointing. And even so, it did exceed my expectations, like I must admit. I didn't really have that much excitement going into the show. Saying that, I got excited every single week. I always got excited to see what was going to happen. But unfortunately, though, in the end, it just disappointed me. And honestly, all in all, I wanted to like it so much more than I did. But unfortunately, I'm going to say that WandaVision is a 6.5 out of 10. Now, if you really like this TV show, even if you love this show, I'm so happy for you, because you found something in the show which I just haven't found. And if you love the show, that's fantastic. I'm so happy for you, because honestly, I wanted to love it. I did. You can believe me or not there, but you know, every single week I wanted to love the episode. I wanted to sit there and go, wow, what a good episode. But in the end, it just felt filler. It just felt, you know, they're exaggerating this idea over 9 episodes, and it didn't really feel like they stick to the, you know, the sitcom format enough, in my opinion. And I think that's my biggest problem, is that it just felt filler in the end. And I wanted to like it so much more than I did. And even so, I do think the series had perks. It's got really good music, some really good performances. I think it's made well. It's messy. It's all over the place. And the ideas which were presented in there, as good as it may be, like the whole thing with White Vision, the whole thing with the kids, it didn't really amount to anything in the end. And honestly, I can't help but feel disappointed by this show. I really can't. And so, all in all, I hate to say it, I really do, but I just think WandaVision is fine. And I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, what do you think of WandaVision? Please do comment down below. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching. If you haven't yet, please do click down below and like, subscribe on this video, and look forward to many more, both film and TV, to come very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon, but bye for now. Bye!